Right now, a third of the world is in darkness. Streets with no lights, fields with no moon, rooms so black you cannot see your own hand. And somewhere in that darkness, something is watching. Because for most creatures on this planet, the night isn't an obstacle, it's home. Owls that can spot a mouse from a football field away in total darkness. Cats that see 6 times better than you the moment the lights go out. Sharks that navigate entire oceans without a single lamp. And then there's you, blind the moment someone flicks the switch. So here's the question, what if you weren't? What if human eyes had evolved just slightly differently? What if, when the sun went down, the world didn't go dark for you? What if darkness was just another kind of light? Because the science of what would actually change, in your body, in your brain, in the way you live your entire life, is one of the most fascinating rabbit holes in human biology. And by the end of this, you will never look at the dark the same way again. Let's start with why you're so bad at it. Your eyes are not designed for darkness. They're designed for the African savannah at noon. Blazing sun, high contrast, fast movement. That's the environment your ancestors lived in for hundreds of thousands of years, and that's what your visual system was built around. But the moment the light drops, you start losing information fast. Here's why. At the back of your eye, you have 2 types of light detector, cones and rods. Cones handle color and fine detail. They need bright light to work. You have about 6 million of them, packed into the center of your retina, and in daylight, they are extraordinary. Rods are different. They work in low light. They're incredibly sensitive, able to detect even a single photon of light. You have 120 million of them. But there's a catch. Rods are slow. They take up to 40 minutes to fully adjust to darkness. That's why when you walk into a dark room, you can't see anything for the first few minutes. Your rods are still waking up. And even when they're fully active, human rods are still nowhere near what the rest of the animal kingdom can do. So what would need to change? The first thing is something called the tapetum lucidum. You don't have one. Cats do. Dogs do. Owls do. Almost every serious nocturnal predator does. It's a mirror, a layer of reflective cells sitting right behind the retina. When light enters a cat's eye and passes through the retina once without being detected, the tapetum bounces it straight back through a second time. Double the chance of catching it, double the sensitivity. That's what causes eye shine, that eerie green glow when you shine a torch at a cat in the dark. You're seeing your own light reflected back at you from inside their eye. If humans had a tapetum lucidum, our night vision would improve dramatically overnight. The same amount of light, processed twice. In dim conditions, we would see roughly as well as a cat. But that's just the beginning. Because the real leap, the thing that separates the truly extraordinary night vision animals from everything else, isn't just about catching more light. It's about a completely different kind of seeing. Pit vipers, pythons, and boa constrictors don't see darkness at all. Not because they have better rods, but because they have a 6th sense. Literally. Along their faces, they have small pits, heat-sensing organs that detect infrared radiation, the heat given off by living bodies. A mouse hiding in total blackness is invisible to your eyes. To a pit viper, it glows like a candle. They don't see light, they see warmth. And in the dark, warmth is everywhere. If humans had evolved this ability, the world at night would look completely different. Not black, not even gray. A landscape of heat signatures. Every warm body a beacon, every cold surface a shadow. Every living thing glowing. You would never lose someone in a crowd again. Now imagine what that does to human history. Because here's what most people don't think about. Darkness wasn't just an inconvenience before electric light. It was a weapon. And for most of human history, it was used against us. Predators hunted at night because we couldn't see them coming. Armies attacked before dawn because defenders were half blind. Entire civilizations organized themselves around the terror of what lived in the dark. The campfire wasn't just warmth. It was a circle of safety against a world that could see you when you couldn't see it. Night vision changes all of that. The predator loses its advantage the moment its prey can see it. The ambush fails the moment the defender can spot movement in the tree line. The dark stops being a weapon and becomes just another landscape. Human history, almost certainly, looks completely different. But the changes don't stop in the past. They ripple forward into every part of modern life. Think about what we built because we couldn't see in the dark. Streetlights. Every lamp on every road on Earth, gone. The electricity grid shrinks overnight. Cities look completely different at night. Quieter, darker, and yet somehow fully navigable. Car headlights, redundant. Torches, unnecessary. The entire industry built around artificial light, dramatically smaller. And sleep. This is the part nobody thinks about. If humans could see perfectly in the dark, the psychological barrier between day and night collapses. Right now, darkness is a signal. Your brain reads low light as a cue to produce melatonin, the hormone that makes you sleepy. It's an ancient system, built on the assumption that when it's dark, you should stop. But if darkness stopped meaning danger, stopped meaning blindness, stopped meaning helplessness, would your brain still treat it as a signal to shut down? Almost certainly not in the same way. The entire rhythm of human civilization, built around the rising and setting of a star, begins to dissolve. Because it's not just the mechanics of seeing that would change, it's what seeing in the dark does to you psychologically. Fear of the dark is one of the most universal human experiences. Almost every culture on Earth has mythology built around what hides in darkness. Monsters, spirits, things that watch from the shadows. And the reason is simple. In the dark, you are vulnerable. Your primary sense is gone. You are suddenly, genuinely prey. That fear is ancient. It's wired deep, and it shaped almost everything. Religion, mythology, architecture, the design of cities, the hours we keep, the stories we tell our children. The reason horror films don't need to explain why the dark is frightening, you already know. Night vision doesn't just change how you see, it changes what you fear. And if you stop fearing the dark, if darkness is just a different kind of visible world, something fundamental shifts in the human psyche. The night stops being something to survive, it becomes somewhere to live. But here's the thing, we are already halfway there. Because humans, against all expectations, are not entirely helpless in the dark. We are far better than we give ourselves credit for. In total, complete, absolute darkness, with fully dark-adapted eyes, a human being can detect a single candle flame from 17 miles away. 17 miles, on a clear night, with no other light source. Your rods, when they've had their full 40 minutes to adjust, are extraordinarily sensitive instruments. And some humans go further. There are documented cases of blind people who have learned genuine echolocation, clicking their tongues and reading the returning sound waves to navigate streets, ride bikes, play basketball. The human brain, given the right input, can build a spatial map from sound alone. We are more adaptable than we think. We don't lack the hardware, we were just handed the wrong environment. And that might be the deepest thing about this whole question. Because the gap between what your eyes can do and what a cat's eyes can do is not as vast as it feels in a dark room. The architecture is almost the same basic structure, the same basic chemistry, the same fundamental design. Evolution just made a different set of trade-offs. Your ancestors needed color. They needed fine detail. They needed to identify ripe fruit from 100 meters, to read the expression on another human face, to track fast movement across open ground in broad daylight. And they got all of that, remarkably well. The cost was the dark, a world that became inaccessible every 12 hours. A third of every day quietly surrendered, and we built our entire civilization around that surrender. The campfire, the candle, the lamp, the city grid blazing against the night sky from space. All of it, every light humans ever made, is just one species trying to claw back the hours it gave away. Every light you've ever switched on is an apology to the dark. So the next time the power goes out, and the room goes black, and you stand there suddenly helpless in a world you can no longer read, remember what that feeling is. It isn't weakness. It isn't a flaw. It's the price your ancestors paid for seeing the world in extraordinary color, for reading faces, for tracking movement, for being, in daylight, one of the most visually sophisticated creatures that has ever lived. The dark took something from you, but the light gave you everything else. And somewhere out there, right now, a cat is watching you from the shadows, completely unbothered, perfectly at home, wondering, perhaps, why you ever needed the sun at all.